It's over for Jimmy Uso after WWE did this to him. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we've got some truly surprising and heartwarming news from the WWE Universe. One half of one of the most iconic tag teams in WWE history, a Bloodline original, a man who stood with Roman Reigns, turned against him, then found himself lost in the very empire he helped build. But now, it's over. WWE has just made a shocking decision about Jimmy Uso, and it may have ended his career for good. What happened? Why did it happen? And what comes next for Jimmy Uso? This is the full story, and you won't believe how deep the betrayal goes. The rise of Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso was born into wrestling royalty. As a son of WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi, and a member of the legendary Anoa'i family, his path to WWE seemed inevitable. Alongside his twin brother Jey Uso, Jimmy carved out a legacy unlike any other. The Usos weren't just great, they were era-defining. From their vibrant Samoan heritage-inspired war dances to their ruthless aggression inside the ring, they became the tag team in WWE. Multiple-time tag team champions, show stealers, WrestleMania mainstays, and then came the Bloodline. The Bloodline saga. When Roman Reigns returned in 2020 with Paul Heyman by his side, a darker and more dangerous side of WWE emerged. The tribal chief persona began, and Jimmy, along with Jey, were pulled into its orbit. The Usos became Roman's right and left hands, his enforcers. But the relationship was toxic. Roman manipulated them, belittled them, and forced them into submission. While Jey fell in line early on, Jimmy resisted. And that resistance led to some of the most compelling storytelling WWE had seen in years. The tension between Jimmy and Roman was real. Jimmy wanted freedom. He wanted his brother back. But in the end, he gave in. Together, they formed a faction that dominated WWE. The Bloodline ruled with an iron fist. They held all the gold. No one could touch them. Until everything began to unravel. Jimmy the Betrayer. The Bloodline story was filled with twists and betrayals, but none hurt more than what Jimmy did to Jey. After months of watching Roman manipulate Jey and physically beat down anyone who opposed him, Jey finally snapped and broke away. Fans were certain Jimmy would join his brother, but instead, he super-kicked Jey. He sided with Roman again. Why? Jimmy claimed it was to protect Jey from becoming the very thing they hated, another version of Roman Reigns. But the truth, it was fear. It was confusion. It was Jimmy not knowing who he was anymore without the Bloodline. That moment changed everything. Fans turned on Jimmy. The locker room distanced themselves. And even Roman looked at him differently. From that point on, Jimmy's days were numbered. Falling down the card, WWE began pulling Jimmy out of major storylines. While Jey Uso exploded as a single star on Monday Night Raw, winning over fans and even competing in world title matches, Jimmy was stuck in purgatory. He was in backstage segments. He was interrupting others' matches. He was acting like a clown version of himself, desperate for approval from Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns. And then it got worse. At Elimination Chamber, Jimmy cost Jey the match, again. At WrestleMania 40, Jimmy tried to redeem himself, but Solo turned on him in brutal fashion, hitting him with a Samoan spike in front of the world. Roman didn't even blink. Jimmy was left lying in the ring, discarded. Just like that, Jimmy Uso was no longer part of the Bloodline. And fans thought it couldn't get worse. But WWE had other plans. WWE pulls the trigger. In the weeks following WrestleMania, Jimmy Uso disappeared from TV. No promos, no vignettes, no explanation. And then, WWE quietly moved him to the alumni section of their official website. No press release, no tribute package, just gone. Fans noticed. Social media exploded. Is Jimmy Uso fired? Did he quit? Is he injured? But WWE said nothing. Then came the real blow. On a May episode of SmackDown, Paul Heyman delivered a chilling promo. He looked directly into the camera and said, "There is no more Jimmy Uso. He failed the island of relevancy. He failed Roman Reigns. And now, he's excommunicated." That word, excommunicated, sent shockwaves. This wasn't a simple storyline exit. This was character assassination. WWE had erased Jimmy Uso from the Bloodline, from SmackDown, from WWE itself. Behind the scenes, what really happened? Sources began reporting that Jimmy Uso was unhappy with his direction. He reportedly requested time off to reassess his future. Some insiders claimed he had creative frustrations, not with the Bloodline story, but with how WWE viewed him. According to one anonymous WWE producer, Jimmy felt like he was just there to make others look good. He wasn't being taken seriously. He wanted to evolve, but creative didn't have a plan. Other reports suggested he was nursing nagging injuries and needed time off. But then came the bombshell leak. Jimmy's contract was coming up soon, and WWE had no plans to renew it. They were preparing to let Jimmy walk away. And to make matters worse, Jey Uso, his own brother, had reportedly signed a huge extension and was being groomed for a main event push. The brothers who had once been inseparable were now on completely different paths. How fans reacted. The WWE Universe was divided. Some fans felt Jimmy had done this to himself. He betrayed Jey. He betrayed us. He deserves it. Others were heartbroken. Jimmy Uso is a legend. He shouldn't go out like this. And some were angry at WWE. How do you dump Jimmy like this after all he's given to the company? Where's the respect? Online hashtags began trending. Hashtag justice for Jimmy. Hashtag thank you Jimmy. Hashtag bring back Jimmy Uso. But WWE stayed silent. Not a single on-screen acknowledgement. It was as if Jimmy Uso had never existed. Jimmy's silence. Oddly enough, Jimmy Uso himself hasn't said a word. No Instagram post. No cryptic tweets. No shoot interviews. Nothing. Some believe he's preparing for a big surprise return. Others think he's genuinely hurt, and debating whether to leave WWE forever. There have been whispers of him talking to AEW talents. Some believe he could follow in the footsteps of stars like Andrade, Miro, or even his cousin Jacob Fatu, making a name for himself outside of WWE. But nothing has been confirmed. Jimmy Uso has gone dark. Why this might really be the end? Let's face facts. Jimmy Uso is a multi-time tag team champion. He's headlined pay-per-views. He's been part of the greatest WWE storyline in modern history. And now, he's discarded, unmentioned, and unwanted. WWE has shut the door. They removed him from the Bloodline, removed him from TV, and possibly let his contract run out without a thank you or farewell. Why? Because in WWE, narrative control is everything. Jimmy's story no longer fits. Jey is the rising solo star. Solo Sikoa is being built as the next tribal chief. Roman is set to return later this year for a massive program, potentially against The Rock. There's simply no place for Jimmy Uso anymore. Not in the story, not in the company. Legacy of Jimmy Uso. If this really is the end, what is Jimmy Uso's legacy? He helped revolutionize tag team wrestling. He made USO crazy a household phrase. He was part of one of the most emotional, complex, and compelling wrestling stories ever told. Jimmy Uso was raw, flawed, passionate, believable, and even when the fans turned on him, even when the Bloodline exiled him, he never